The apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all they had done and taught. He said to them, "Come away with me to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a deserted place all by themselves. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. As he went on ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. At this point, the lectionary skips over many verses, including the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 when the disciples aren't sure what to do, and the story of Jesus walking on water and the disciples being terrified at that sight. The lectionary continues at verse 53 when the disciples' boat finally comes ashore. When they had crossed over, they came to land at Gennesaret and moored the boat. When they got out of the boat, people at once recognized him and rushed about that whole region and began to bring the sick on mats to wherever he was. And wherever he went, into villages or cities or farms, they laid the sick in the marketplaces and begged him that they might touch even the fringe of his cloak. And all who touched it were healed. The word of the Lord. So this morning, I want to invite you to just take a deep breath. Feels good sometimes. Let go for just a few moments this morning of all the things that have happened this week, all the worry or angst or fear or anything you might feel that might keep you from being present. Come away with me and hear a story of promise and possibility. There was once a very special man. And this man had a way about him, and wherever he went, people were just drawn to him. He had one of those personalities that people wanted to be near him. They came from all over to catch a glimpse of him or hear him teach. Sometimes he repeated things that other people had said, but when he said them, somehow the words sounded different. And people actually believed that what he said might be possible. Now, sometimes when people repeat the words someone else has said, it diminishes the meaning of the words. When people hear too many people say the same thing, they often will criticize and say, well, isn't that the same thing that John said? Why is everyone jumping on his bandwagon now? People often think we want something new, something innovative, something unique all the time. But this man, he could repeat even what his cousin said, and somehow he made the words come alive. He made them seem more important than they were when they were said the first time. And people wondered if there was truth in the words that he spoke. He told people about a reality, a reign, a kingdom that was right before them that they were missing. A fulfillment of time that was already present. And people began to believe in it and turn their lives around. And this man became very popular. It became hard for even his closest friends to get some time alone with him because so many people were around all the time. There was this paparazzi that followed him, pushing and shoving, always trying to get closer, closer. They wanted to touch him. They had heard the rumors that even if you managed to just touch the hem of his garment, you would be healed from whatever ailed you. And this man, he was different. He was different than everyone else because it didn't seem to matter who came to him or why they came to him, whether they just wanted to listen or they wanted to interrogate him, whether they wanted to be healed or they wanted to question everything he said, or even if they just wanted to be known by him. He entertained all of them. It was as if he couldn't turn anyone away. He didn't care if those who sought him out had a bad reputation or controversial opinions or disagreed with everything he said, or even if they were considered to be dangerous or contagious or dirty. He welcomed them all. He made each person feel as though they were worthy of his time. I guess you could say that he genuinely believed in the people he met. He believed anyone could be made whole, even if they didn't think they needed to be made whole, even if they didn't think it was possible for them to be made whole. He called some people to be with him, to travel with him, to live with him, and he taught those people lots of things. There are many stories about the things he taught them, but a lot of those stories are confusing, and there's multiple versions, and the details don't always agree. Even those who were called to him were often confused by the things he told them, and they wondered if they truly understood. But even when they doubted, this man believed in them. One day, he sent the people he had called to be close to him out on their own. And he told them to proclaim all that he had taught them and shown them. And he didn't want them to be alone, so he sent them out in pairs. He told them they didn't need any special tools. They didn't need any special words to say, for they were enough already for the work he called them to do. They just needed to be present. And they went out and they repeated the words he told to them. And they did the things that he taught them to do. They did things they never thought they would ever do. They proclaimed the reality that most people missed. And people believed them too. And there was more even. They confronted demons, and demons left. And they cared for the people they were sent out to, and they practiced together, not being afraid. And because of that, many people were healed. Many people were made whole. Sometimes they would just say the same thing that this man and his cousin before him had said, and they watched as people were able to turn their lives around and go an entirely new direction. And it was mostly very good. But bad things still happened. Not everyone liked what the special man was saying and doing. Many thought they needed to send him a very clear message that hope and promise, apart from the reality that already existed, that everyone could already see, was not to be tolerated. The special man's cousin was arrested and killed, and it was very sad. And the ones the special man had sent out came back to be with him, and they told him everything they had done and taught. They testified that they had seen this reality that he had talked about, that they had participated in this reality that he told them about. They had seen it with their own eyes. They had felt the power of it in their own lives and in the lives of the people that they met. And they knew it could change the world. They had great stories to share. And for a while, everything seemed better again. But the ones Jesus sent out, they were also very tired. And they remembered that not all of their stories were good. Sometimes they went places where people didn't welcome them, and they had to shake off the dust that was on their shoes and move on to the next house. And sometimes they got very little sleep because there were so many people around and the needs were so great, and they were busy telling and sharing the good news. And sometimes, even when there was food, they felt hungry because they couldn't even find time to eat. They also had another problem. Now that they had done and said and shared all of the things the special man had taught them, people were recognizing them too. And what had seemed fun at first now seemed more like a chore, as they had to carve out space. They discovered that the more they shared what the special man said and did, the more people came. And they wondered what they ever did before, because now they didn't seem to have any free time at all. Now they got no time alone with this man. People were around them all of the time, clamoring to hear their stories, taking up their space, and wanting to see evidence of their power in action. People came from all over to get something that they believed they couldn't get anywhere else in the world. They came because they were hungry. They came because they were needy. They came so they could learn. They came so they wouldn't have to feel so lost in a world that always told them they needed to be better than they already were. And so the disciples learned something about themselves. Sometimes it is those who claim to be closest to the special man that feel the most tired. They were willing to follow him, especially to the places where they felt most likely to feel his presence with them, where they could be alone with him. But they weren't always sure they wanted to be sent out from that place. Because out there, the world was demanding and overwhelming and time-consuming and overcrowded. And it's not always fun to share. And once people hear you're willing to share, they're going to come. So spending time with the special man is one thing, and witnessing his miracles is another thing, and having the opportunity to learn from his life is priceless. But participating in the reality he proclaims is near, well, that's exhausting. The good news is the special man continues to have compassion for all of us, refuses to give up on any of us. After these stories, he goes on traveling, doing, teaching, healing, curing, allowing us to witness all he says and does, believing in us, hoping one day we might come away with him again. Amen.